Chapter 15, Interlude 2. Soren's mad planet failed. Desperate LRN killed in the explosion of his own missile. The solar system was saved. Millions of lives spared annihilation from their own sun. But at what cost? Picard's limbs ached as he scurried down the rocky incline, deeper into the canyon, not daring to hope, but not wanting to admit what likely had transpired. Kirk had succeeded. He knew that much. Hadn't gotten to the remote that had decloaked Soren's platform, had made this victory possible, but the sound that had followed, the crumble of stone and the screech of metal. Picard hadn't seen what had happened, had been far too focused on preventing the launch of that missile to witness it, but the lack of sight had given him hope. After all, Kirk had already thwarted death outright, survived seemingly impossible odds by coming back after being lost on the Enterprise B years and parsecs from this lifeless rock. Every hopeful thought in Jean-Luc's mind prayed that Kirk had leapt free somehow, or ridden the catwalk down to the bottom, perhaps throwing himself to some higher ledge before it finished his plunge. But when Picard saw that twisted catwalk at the bottom of the canyon and the glimpse of a white uniform beneath it, those hopes died. Still, Picard hurried forward, tugging away at a piece of debris, peering inside, and finding Kirk, bloodied, broken but alive, pinned beneath the catwalk. The former captain of the Enterprise was still conscious, still aware of his surroundings, and when he saw Picard looking down at him, he blinked dazedly. "Did we win? Did we do it?" Kirk muttered, rose-flowered eyes narrowing against the pane, voice soft, yet almost pleading. "Did we make a difference?" "Oh, yes," Picard replied breathlessly, half hoping he could find some means to get Kirk out safely. "We made a difference. Thank you." "Least I could do. For Captain of the Enterprise." Kirk's eyes flickered for just a moment as he added, "It was fun." Kirk's head tilted a little, smiling at Picard as if sharing some private joke. But Picard really couldn't find himself to smile back. Then the smile faded. Bit by bit, the expression that replaced it was a quiet mix of awe and perhaps fear. "Oh my." They were his last words. In those narrowed eyes, Sue saw no more. Picard knelt there for a good long time, unable to look away from Kirk's body, unable to even climb to his feet, as if thinking that if he left the body unguarded, something would steal it away. His reverie, his long, silent vigil was broken with a sudden skitter of scattered pebbles that sounded from above, causing the captain to spin around, body tensing for an attack, only to find a very recognizable figure standing above him on an outcrop of rock with an even more familiar blue box behind him. "You!" Dazed and more than a little pain, it took a moment for Picard to dredge up the name of years past. "Doctor." "Yes." The doctor's eyes flickered to Kirk's body, a small sigh passing his lips. "I'm sorry, I really am, but I need you to come with me. I need your help." "Yes, well..." Picard's lips thinned, jaw settling as he turned back towards Kirk, kneeling into his curled fingers under the bottom rim of the fallen catwalk. "To hell with what you need. I don't intend to leave him here like this." The captain gave a strangled groan as he tried to haul the catwalk away, but he had been through too much in the last couple of hours, and he was a sore, stiff mess, bordering on dehydration and covered in more than a few cuts and bruises. His first few attempts brought nothing but pained grunts, as the catwalk didn't even twitch at the Starfleet officer's exhausted efforts. "Captain," the doctor said gently, starting his descent towards Picard, "the rescue shuttle will be here. It will only take you too long to build a proper coronet for him yourself. It won't give us enough time to talk." "So what?" Picard snapped without even glancing back, even as he gave the catwalk another hard pull. He groaned as his sore, battered muscles protested the strain, the words coming in choked gasps. "You're saying I should leave him here, then?" The catwalk shuddered and squealed but refused to move. Picard's teeth gritted as he hauled with all his strength, and suddenly it began to lift upward, off of Kirk's battered body. Staggering when the load lightened, Picard glanced to find the doctor beside him, jacket removed, his own hands clamped on the catwalk railings, teeth bared from the strain that he had helped to drag it to one side. "I'm not saying, I'm asking," the doctor corrected gently as he set it down, and the Picard was a little more surprised to see tears beating into the Time Lord's eyes. "I'm asking you to let me help." With both men working together, it didn't take very long to bring Kirk's body somewhere a little more appropriate, and to build a little cairn of stones around it. The doctor had spoken quietly throughout it, telling him the fate of the Picard's Enterprise, but assuming that most of his crew had survived the sauce section crash. Both were covered in dust and bruises by the time they had finished, the doctor settling onto a rock to catch his breath. The sun had just begun to dip on the horizon as Picard set Kirk's Starfleet emblem on the top of the cairn, stepping away and taking a moment of silence for the fallen officer. Finally, Picard drew in a slow breath, glancing at the doctor. "Thank you." "It was the least I could do," the doctor replied quietly, his eyes still on the cairn. "I don't like to be in anyone's debt." Picard couldn't help but notice the look on the Time Lord's face as he stared at the cairn, something suggesting familiarity. "I take it you met him?" "Once," the doctor sighed softly, dusting his hands off as he climbed back to his feet, retrieving his jacket. "A long time ago, at least from his perspective. It was only a brief meeting, a single conversation, but it's enough to give me some ideas why they told so many stories about him. He caught me on his ship, red-handed, and the inn chose to release me on the word of his first officer, nothing else. Good man, one who listens to their friends. I doubt he would have remembered me, or at least not as anything but a brief, frustrating curiosity." "It's a feeling that I can relate to," Picard replied numbly, and the doctor gave him a little snorting reply, the tiniest of smiles. "I deserve that, I imagine." Picard's jaw tightened a little as he turned to consider the Time Lord. "You knew this was going to happen. You must have. If you knew where to find me, the Enterprise's fate, Kirk's fate, could you have done something? Come sooner, help against the Soran's plans, prevented the destruction of the Enterprise. At least you could have saved Kirk." The captain's voice rose steadily with each moment, and though he wasn't quite shouting at the end of it, he did step closer to the doctor, eyes glimmering with scantily repressed anger. All the frustration, the fear, and the violence of the past couple of hours had driven Picard into a corner. The news that the Enterprise, his ship, his home for nearly a decade, had been destroyed with almost more than he could bear. The doctor, for his part, met the human's gaze levelly, not flinching, but not defiant either. In fact, he looked slightly ashamed. "Actually, I considered it," the doctor admitted, hands sliding into his pocket as he glanced on the ground. "When I first saw what happened here, read the report as anyway, I considered changing it, but unfortunately, there are factions out there that would rather I keep the timeline intact, and they would have taken any steps necessary to ensure it. Ironically, they're your very own people, a number of centuries ahead of you. Surely you've heard about what happened to the Ultron colony soon after our intervention." Picard nodded, his head tilting. "Yes, I heard about the asteroid strike. It was a tragedy, but are you Shane?" "Unfortunately, yes," the doctor replied, shaking his head. "They're responsible for the colony's destruction, like cutting away a limb to prevent some perceived infection from spreading. If I had intervened, saved the Enterprise, even saved Kirk, they would have done everything in their power to reverse it, even if it meant killing him with their own hands. It could very well have ended up doing more damage in the process than it had already been done. I'm sorry, Captain, but it was not a risk I could take. I'm here because this is one of the very few times in the years to come that I could visit you without anyone knowing. I imagine your own Starfleet would love to get their hands on me, and your technology is capable of detecting my TARDIS's arrival." "I see." Picard seemed a little mollified at that, or at least he took the doctor at his word. "I'm sorry, my words, they weren't called for." "As am I," the Time Lord replied, his eyes drifting along the landscape. "And they weren't." Giving Kirk's Karn another long look, he finally sighed and gestured toward the TARDIS. Well, come on then. We should be underway before the shuttle arrives. I trust you'll be able to return me without drawing any undue notice. Well, Captain, please, Picard interjected softly. His hands cut off the doctor. Jean-Luc. The doctor actually gave a full smile at that, teeth and everything. Thank you. Well, Jean-Luc, I can guarantee I'll have you back on the planet's surface in less than a minute after you left. Good, Jean-Luc muttered as they reached the TARDIS's doors, slumping against the box as he took a moment to catch his breath. But precisely what do you need from me? Well, the doctor murmured, wincing as he pushed the doors open and laughing nervously. I need you to tell me everything you know about the Borg.